Well then, Happy New Year. 2024 was a very chaotic year for UK politics and politics around the world. In today's podcast episode, I'm going to be talking about the predictions that I made at the beginning of last year for 2024, because a lot of them have actually come true. Some of them didn't, and we're going to talk about that, but quite a lot of them did actually. We're going to do a bit of a year review, and then we're also going to talk about my 2025 predictions for politics. I mean, I stuck to mainly kind of UK politics predictions last year. This year's kind of incorporates also like the US as well, and global conflicts and things like that. So, if you've never seen my face before, hello, welcome to Playing in Politics. My name's Anna. This is my politics and makeup podcast, where basically I talk about politics whilst I do my makeup at the same time. It's something to do with my hands. It's a fun, creative concept. I like to say that it's like Bailey Sarian, but without the murder, because I stole the concept off Bailey Sarian, who's a true crime creator over here. However, for the past couple of episodes, and including this one, I can't really say it's like Bailey Sarian without the murder, because, I mean, the first few days of 2025 have already been filled with death, unfortunately, and obviously the attacks like in New Orleans and outside the Trump Tower in Las Vegas. So, but we're going to talk about that not in today's video, because this is about predictions for the year as a whole. We're not talking about current affairs right now. Normally we do talk about current affairs, but today's episode we're going to talk about some predictions. If you agree with anything throughout this video or throughout this episode, feel free to start a discussion in the comments. If you have anything you want to add to what I'm going to talk about, feel free. This is a fun time. We try and sort of keep it quite chilled and relaxed over here, because politics can be really heavy. And we just try and have like a light-hearted discussion about it as much as we can. So, without any further ado, let's talk about 2024 whilst I do my moisturiser. Any products, I'm gonna try not to talk about the makeup as much, because it's easier for me to just put it in the description and then for you guys to just go and look, because this is more about politics than less about makeup, really. You know, I realise that's a better way to do it. But anyway, right, 2024, yes, was a chaotic year, as I say. I don't think any of us really predicted, could have predicted how chaotic it was going to be. I mean, for some aspects, yes, and we're going to get into that. Because as I say, I was watching back the episode where I did make my 2024 predictions, and I was like, whoa, this is a bit freaky, how well I actually was able to sort of lay out the year. However, as I say, there are some things I did miss, and there was a couple of moments I was like, oh girl, you had no idea. So yeah, let me just get that up real quick, actually, because I have my notes on my iPad in front of me. So, let's start with the main event in UK politics was obviously the general election, and my sort of first prediction was talking about the general election, and about Rishi Sunak, now obviously the former leader of the Tory party, and I said that he was going to survive the election and then either resign or get pushed out once we lost. I was watching back to that video, as I say, and I was surprised even then that I just was so convinced that the Tories were going to lose, because I was quite involved in some local campaigning at that time over in Bolton, and yeah, I was actually surprised that I was so convinced, because I feel like the feeling at that time, we had a little bit more hope, didn't we? Just a smidge, but then obviously as the election loomed, that hope began to dwindle and burn out quite quickly. And obviously, as we know, that prediction was indeed correct, because shortly after a devastating loss, Sunak was obviously forced to resign. Well, not forced to, I guess. I know there were quite a lot of people who were immediately calling for his resignation, which was fair enough. You know, it was fully deserved. If you've been on my channel for a while, you know I was never a Rishi Sunak fan in any capacity. So it was a very welcome resignation in my eyes. Because the next point I said was that I wasn't predicting the Tory wipeout to be as bad as people were saying it was. You know, I think last year we had those who were definitely sort of naysayers were all, you're gonna get absolutely obliterated and it's gonna be like the worst thing the Tories have ever experienced. And I mean, I'm not gonna go into like the figures because I did cover that at the time. If you want to go back and watch kind of my live streams that I did, like when the exit poll came out, and everything in terms of like the figures, and I talk about like first past the post and how that failed us and everything else. But I was convinced that we were gonna maintain like quite a good group of people, and in a way I was sort of right and sort of wrong in that regard, I think, because obviously we did get wiped out, which again completely deserved. I'm not trying to knock that whatsoever. However, I was very surprised about certain Tory MPs, keeping their seat. Sunak being one of them. I genuinely thought, because he was so incredibly hated by just the country, and like even a lot of Tory members, me being one of them, by the way, if you didn't know. Tory members since 2019, still hanging on by a thread. Yeah, I didn't think he was going to keep his seat, but lo and behold, he is still the MP for Richmond, and you know, he's still kicking. So that was a shock. And yeah, there were a couple of people obviously who did keep their seats. I was surprised that Priti Patel kept her seat. I mean, I know that she obviously was very controversial as Home Secretary, and again, she was obviously quite divisive with the general public for several reasons that we won't get into right now because it'll take me forever. Yeah, no, I was very, very shocked that she kept her seat, because I was like, really? She survived? Wow, okay. And there were a couple of others as well that I'm not can't really name right now, but yeah, there were a couple of sort of household names that we've known throughout the past few years that managed to keep their seat, which was like, well done, shocked, you know. Yeah, so as I say, with that prediction, I feel like I was partly right and partly wrong. The next thing sort of predicted was that there was going to be a small number, this was like after we lost, there was going to be a small group of MPs from Reform UK forming an alliance with Tory MPs, and I feel like this was something that was going around quite a lot at the time, and like a prediction that a lot of people were coming out with. There was going to be like an alliance formed between the two parties. Like, we weren't going to see that many sort of jump party, but like they were going to form an alliance. That was completely wrong. Don't know where I was pulling that from. I mean, well, I know where I was pulling it from. I was pulling it from everyone else who was saying it at the time, right? So don't necessarily count that out completely. But yeah, that was completely false. As we know, there are only a small group of MPs from Reform that managed to get in because of first past the post and everything. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, as we know, it's a reason why a lot of Tory MPs lost their seat, because everyone was voting for Reform, and first past the post, again, failed the system. I have a whole episode on that after the general election, not going to go into that in too much detail right now. But obviously we have seen afterwards quite a lot of MPs jump ship and go to Reform. There have been quite a few people doing that. So it's not necessarily people like staying within their party and then kind of like being best buds with another party. People have just jumped ship, which was probably a more sensible decision, to be fair, than what I was trying to predict. So yeah, that prediction wasn't right at all. Now, the next person I want to talk about, like the next person I talked about at the time, was Lee Anderson, and it was interesting that we talked about, because at the time I filmed my 2024 predictions video, he just resigned from the Tory party. Like, he just resigned as deputy leader. And obviously he then went over to Reform UK, but he did that after I filmed that episode. So, oh yeah, by the way, I don't think if you follow my if you followed this channel for a while, you know I have like a Harry Potter wand makeup brush collection. New Year's Day I was doing my makeup, right, and this brush looked a bit bent. I didn't really know what was going on, so I tried to sort of like fix it and make it straight, and it broke. It literally broke into two pieces. Like, I've had this makeup brush set for like 7 or 8 years. Like, I got it in like 2017 where it was like really popular. It was like an Amazon dupe to whatever the actual brand was that were doing it. And yeah, just hope this is tragic, but anyway, so if you're wondering why I was using an incredibly small brush and like, what is she doing? That's why. Just fun fact. Anyway, Lee Anderson defecting to Reform UK, like, that was a bit of a shock, in all honesty, because I hadn't predicted that. I just predicted, like, he was going to resign, or he was going to get demoted because he was deputy leader at the time, and obviously at the time of filming that episode, that had actually happened on the day of. He had said he was going to resign. It was over an immigration bill, the amendments or something, and obviously after that, shortly after that, he did then defect to Reform UK, which I don't think anyone was expecting, because he'd been such a bastion of the Tories, and he'd been such a... Obviously he had a history of kind of jumping parties, obviously starting off with Labour and then going to where he is now, obviously. So it wasn't necessarily well, it was a shock in a way, but then when you looked at his history, it was like, well, fair enough. If he feels like he's not welcome in a certain place, then he is just gonna go to somewhere else where he feels more welcome. And you know what? I do commend that. Always, you know, spend most of your time in spaces where you feel most appreciated. So in a way, I do commend him for that, and I'm not gonna bash Lee Anderson. This is not a Lee Anderson bashing channel. However, I do bash him on some things, but I do that for most people. Always question, always critique. Anyway, that was kind of like a non-prediction in a way about him being demoted or resigning, because that had happened like the day of jumping to Reform UK and being like sort of the one that led people to Reform UK, because after he jumped, a few other people jumped as well. Fair enough. As I say, like, if anyone was gonna like be the guide or the leader of that kind of thing, it was gonna be Lee Anderson, wasn't it? So again, not shocked. Next one, if you follow my channel, if you don't already know, when it comes to trans rights and the gender identity politics argument, first of all, I always say it's not a priority. Things like, we have much more important priorities for our security as a country when it comes to external threats from people like China and Iran and Russia and places like that. We should not be punishing the trans community, the genuine trans community, not the people who are just trying to cause harm by using the label and using self-ID. We should not be punishing the actual trans people for existing and just wanting their healthcare and living, just wanting to get on with their lives. We should not be punishing these people. We've got much bigger priorities. Okay, so that is my stance on that. And unfortunately, because what the next prediction I have is, like, I really hope that we become a bit kinder to the trans community, and I did think that kind of Labour were maybe gonna do that, considering that they were originally kind of half pandering to that kind of crowd of like the activists, you know. However, as we know, that has not been the case, and unfortunately we are seeing things like hormone treatment, I think, for people who are under 18 is potentially being banned in this country, which is stupid in my opinion. I mean, gender confirmation surgery, or like the top and bottom surgery, really. Well, I think gender confirmation is just bottom surgery, but I could be wrong on that. But any kind of gender confirmation surgery, either top or bottom, I think you have to be 18 to get that in this country, which is fair enough, and I think that's right, and I think we should keep that. But any kind of puberty blocker, which are entirely reversible, by the way, people don't talk about that, and any kind of hormone treatment should maybe be 16 for like actual hormone treatment. I don't know, because I don't know enough about the ins and outs of how that works to necessarily point blank dictate kind of what it should be, in my opinion. But to ban it completely for under 18s is rubbish. So just saying, if you want to try and get trans suicide rates down, that is not the thing to do. And yeah, unfortunately that has gone the opposite. Same with self-ID in schools and for LGBTQ kids, which is my next prediction that I talked about in that video, because that hasn't really gone that hasn't progressed anymore. In fact, that's gone backwards, and we're seeing quite a lot of things happening in that area that isn't really talked about enough, I don't think. And it is sad, and I do feel for all like the LGBTQ kids who don't have safe home environments, who maybe are finding a safe space in school, but they can't necessarily feel entirely safe opening up to teachers and that, because we like have laws where people want rules where if someone opens up to a teacher about something, the parents have to know, and you know, we are potentially putting some people in danger. If you think, like, and a lot of people have said this, like 40 years ago, people were saying the same thing about like gay kids, and I think that there are still cases where if a child is coming out as gay, they're not safe to do that at their home, so they'll be doing that in school. And again, this is all subjective in a way, but in another way it's not, you know. So I don't know, it is sad that we've still not made progress in that area, especially when we have a lot bigger issues to sort out when it comes to the problems in this country, and just like trying to silence the LGBTQ community, especially youth, is just not a priority, and people are really making it such a big deal when it's not, and it's like a mountain out of a molehill, and it's really putting people in danger and just making them more miserable, when really we shouldn't be doing that to any group in this country, really. And this is what annoys me about the fact that it's being like led by the Tories in a way, this kind of ideology, like sort of like turf ideology, is that, you know, the Conservatives are meant to be free speech and free people, and like freedom of choice, and freedom of expression is meant to be at the root of what the Tories are meant to do. Like, that's like a root value of conservatism, and it's just not being reflected, and it really makes me sad. So there we go. But yeah, we're gonna move on because I'm gonna rant about that. It does come up quite often, so yeah, it is sad, but hopefully we can see a bit of an improvement if we talk about it in the right way. That's my 2 minutes worth on that, because it continues to be a quite sad situation. So, moving on. I feel like I need to write on my hand, charge my mirror every time I want to film a podcast episode, because I always end up doing it when the sun's going down, and my mirror is like a light up one, so I've just had to plug it in. So it will be okay in a bit, trust me, in a few minutes, but we're just gonna use my palette mirror in the meantime. But yeah, so my final prediction that I made for 2024 is, I thought that like the best plot twist to happen last year was maybe for David Cameron to like become the new leader of the Tory party or something, which is so cute, isn't it? I mean it is really cute, because obviously we all praised when David Cameron became a Lord and then became the Foreign Secretary, like we were all, Dave's back, yay! But yeah, so it was like, we were all, hey, wouldn't it be funny if he became PM? Like, it was so cute. we were so delusional, it was so cute. But yeah, no, obviously that didn't happen. He is still a Lord, obviously, he's still talking in the House of Lords and things, and he's still doing his job over there. Yeah, I don't know. We do love David Cameron, we will never stop our love for him. He's a great guy, he did a lot for this country, you know, when he was PM he got us out of a right old mess. So it was a nice idea. It was a nice idea. But obviously that's not gonna happen. I mean, as I said, it would have been nice, because we've ended up with Kemi, and whilst, you know, my last episode was my thoughts when she first got elected, and if you watched that video, feel free to go watch that so you know my feelings, but I am not a fan of Kemi. I voted for Rob, not Kemi, do not blame me. Yeah, so that was my last one. But yeah, so those are my predictions for 2024, and obviously a lot more happened that I wasn't on that list. But yeah, as I say, I was alright with what I wrote down, and I feel like I did a good job in sort of getting the general gist of sort of the vibes that were gonna happen. But yeah, I don't know, it was a fun little list to compile, and I thought, considering that this list had gone so well, why not do a 2025 prediction list? So let me get those up, because this is gonna be This is going to be a fun old ride. As I said at the beginning, you know, already the first few days of this year we've already had absolute chaos, and if that's anything to go by, you know, we are in for even more of a ride. I hate that I forgot to charge my mirror. Obviously, the state the country is in now is absolutely diabolical. With Labour in charge, we are a very fast trajectory downhill. Okay, but honestly, I don't think anybody could have predicted just how bad things were gonna get. I don't think people could have predicted the winter fuel allowance being cut, like being like the first thing they did, and just all the other failings. I don't think we could have predicted just how bad this was going to be. Damn anybody who voted Labour, you know what you were getting into, you have no right to complain. However, with that being said, and I said in my 2024 prediction video, actually, when I was watching it back, people didn't want Starmer in the first place. They literally, their only campaign slogan was literally just, "We're not the Tories, please vote for us," and it worked. It worked surprisingly well, but as I say, we are in an absolute mess now, and my first prediction is I don't believe the Starmer is going to last until the next election. I don't think he will. I think that Labour are going to basically turn around and do the exact same thing. That helps. I just turned to like a white screen on my iPad. But I think that is probably going to be the first thing that happens, probably like the middle of this year, that the Labour Party are going to get so sick of him, and the country is going to get so angry at this government that they're basically going to turn their backs on him and do what the Tories did with Theresa May and Liz Truss, and basically boot him out of number 10 and get somebody else in. I don't know who they're going to vote in, because all of them seem to be nut jobs as far as I'm aware. I genuinely don't think he's going to last till the next election. He is such a weak leader, and he's just not doing very well, is he? Just, it's overall. If you know, you know. Light mode on Notion. Anyway. Speaking of Reeves being worse than Starmer, by the way, I think that she's going to go first. I don't think that Starmer going to go first, I think she's going to go first. Yeah, she's going to be pushed out, and then they're going to be like, whoa, you got rid of, like, your hench woman. Why did you do that, Starmer? Out you go as well. I feel like that's what's going to happen. Because I feel like the majority, like, at least the front bench are quite behind each other. Like, they're all pushing each other along, you know? So I feel like if he makes a move like that, like, if he sacks Rachel Reeves or something, I feel like that's going to be what's going to get him out. But I'm convinced that whichever way it goes, he's not going to survive till the next election. There's going to be a Labour leadership election before the next general, so that's my prediction. Either that or the petition that is still going around. Like, it's got over like 3 million signatures the last time I heard. You know, if that works, then obviously we'll end up with I mean, we're not actually going to end up with a general election. That has no effect other than just showing how angry the country is at this current government. And I think that's what's going to be, because surely that's affected him. Surely that's running in the back of his mind, knowing everybody hates me, I've got to do something. Like, surely, if he's got any sense of humanity about him, which would be an achievement, but if he has anything in him like that, surely he's got to get to a point where he's like, yeah, I've got to do something, haven't I? Sorry, Rachel, it's kind of your fault for the whole winter fuel allowance thing. I know we agreed on that at first, but sorry, girl, out the door. There we go. And then the rest of them are going to be like, what did you do that for? No thanks, bitch, out you get. Like, that's just what I think is going to happen. At least that's kind of my current train of thought of how that might happen. So, I don't know. Surely, though, there's something got to be going on behind the scenes in regards to that. But anyway, that is my first prediction. Second prediction. Now then, I have said for a while, when it comes to Reform UK, I have never trusted Richard Tice as far as I could throw him. Now, that was when he was the leader of the party. Obviously, Nigel has made his big return to politics, which in a way was probably the alternative to David Cameron making a big leadership return to politics. So maybe I just got the names wrong, I don't know. Because that was kind of the same moment, just with Nigel. Anyway, with what they did to Ben Habib, with the way that they kind of pushed him out kind of silently, I still don't, because there was a while, especially when Kemi first got voted in as Tory leader, where me and my friend, like, were very tempted to go to Reform UK. We were very tempted to give up our Tory memberships and go to Reform UK. However, there was something very, very deep in my soul, core gut feeling, not to do that. And then everything came out about Ben Habib being pushed out, and which kind of confirmed that gut feeling in a way that there was something dodgy going on. And as much as now, in terms of membership, they are bigger than the Tory party, and I know that Nat Jeffries is trying to get Kemi to apologise for trying to say that they've, like, lied about the figures and stuff, which, Kemi, why did you do that, girl? That was so stupid of you. Anyway, like, that was so bitter. Of all the bitter things she could have done, that was not the one to do, you know what I mean? It was honestly like a shaking my head in hands kind of moment. It was ridiculous. But so in terms of, like, obviously with the members, they are more than the Tory party now, but that's not the point, right? The point. But, as I say, what they did with Ben Habib, but there's still something in me that's always been there. There's something dodgy going on. And I feel like that's going to come out. I feel like 2025 we're going to see the downfall of Reform UK. I feel like their moment of glory is not going to last very long. And I don't know what specifically is making me feel that, but there is something in me, as I say, that's always been there when it comes to Reform UK. When Richard Tice was the party leader, like, I never trusted him, as I said, and even though I am a Nigel fan kind of as a whole, there is something going on. There is something going on, and as I say, I can't pinpoint it right now, but something is gonna happen, something dodgy will come out about kind of the inner workings of it, or like one of the backers, or like a investor or something is going to come out about them that's going to make everyone go, whoa, why did we support them? Let's go back to the Tories, or let's go to the Lib Dems or something. Like, I feel like that's going to happen. As I say, I don't know what it is, but something deep in my gut is telling me that's what's going to happen. Hence why I'm still a Tory and I'm not running off to Reform UK. Like, if anyone asks, why are you still a Tory? That's why, because I don't trust. As much as I feel a little bit politically homeless right now, that's why, because I don't trust what they're doing. Anyway, as a result of that as well, I've also written down that Nigel will silently leave and start his own party again. And I know that obviously it was the Brexit party originally before it was what it is now, so in a way, kind of his party, but you know, we shall see what happens. As I say, that is something that I feel quite deep in my soul that is going to happen. As I say, I don't know exactly what, but I feel like we're going to see that. And in a way, I'm going to be very glad to be sat there when it does happen and go, I told you so. It's going to be a glorious moment of vindication, and I can't wait. Talking about Kemi, by the way, I know I mentioned her briefly. I think she will last. She will last the year, I think. I think she will last the year, but she's only going to become weaker. Now, a lot of the reason why I think a lot of people voted her in, as I say, not me, can't stand her personally. Sorry girl, no offence. A little bit, but no offence. You know, on some areas, yes, but on the whole, no offence. But I feel like she was very, very good at speaking. That's the one thing everyone said about her, even from the beginning when she was up in 2022 for leader. That's what everyone said about her. She's very, very good at talking. She's a really strong talker. And it was partly the reason why I didn't vote for her, is because we've had strong speaking women before. We've had strong speaking just leaders before who haven't actually done anything. We saw it with Priti Patel as Home Secretary, and girl, you know I love you. But we saw it with her when she was Home Secretary, and she was very, very good at talking, very, very good in the Commons, fantastic in the Commons, especially when it came to when she was up against the opposition. But then, as we all know, there were serious failings going on, like with her policies and what the work she was actually doing in the Home Office, so we can't always trust a good speaker is the point I'm trying to make. Just because they're good speakers doesn't necessarily mean they're good politicians on a whole and they're actually going to make a difference. And I feel like that's a distinction that people didn't make And hence we ended up with her as leader, so, but obviously a lot of reason why people have voted for her as well is because she's very much a TERF, as David Tennant very famously said in that speech, that award ceremony. I can't remember exactly what it was, because he's very fond of wearing like little pin badges and things, which I think is very cute. I think his dress sense is really cute. Just personally, I'm a big fan of David Tennant. Grew up with Doctor Who as a kid. Big part of my childhood is David Tennant, so may or may not have been my first like childhood crush, so I should not be admitting this on the podcast channel, but anyway, big fan of David Tennant. But as I say, Kemi will last the year because we have no really other reason to get rid of her at this point. We're so weak as a party as a whole, we have no real reason to get rid of her. However, as I say, she will get weaker, and I don't think she's gonna start coming out with any kind of good policy ideas. She's not gonna be talking about anything else except gender identity politics and protecting women, and she's gonna rally all the TERFs together as she has been doing, and as she did during the election and all this stuff. So unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna see much of a change with her in terms of her ideology and the things she's talking about, but I feel like the things she believes and what she's gonna use as like a campaign. But yeah, I don't really have high hopes for her, to be honest. She's just a bit meh, which is, to be honest, how I feel about the Tory party as a whole at the moment, but hey ho. We move on, and we do move on because as a result of her, this is what I do to clear my finger off, I'm so sorry. Not sorry, this is effective. Anyway, but I feel like because she's not going to get any better, I feel like we are going to see a new group of Tory rebels led by sort of the right-wing Tories. People like, and I know people say that Rob Jenrick's like a bit of like a liberal Tory, he's not really a right-wing, but he was the most right-wing out of the two we were left with, you know. I mean, I've got this from conference still on my desk, my Tom Tugendhat badge, which is glow in the dark, by the way. Well done to his campaign team. People like Rob, people like Tom, people who care about national security and the real problems in this country. I feel like there's going to be a proper rebellion group formed that we're going to start speaking up at events, and they're going to start going round, like, because Rob over Christmas was, like, he did a gathering party thing, and he was saying, like, I'm not going to lead the Tories, I'm here for, like, you know, I'm not going to go to reform you guys, don't worry. We were all like, yay, Rob! Yeah, so I feel like it's going to be people like that who are going to be trying to push Kemi to talk more about national security policies and the things that actually matter, so hopefully that is the case. That's the probably one that I'm crossing my fingers the most about, because that is something we really need. Because if we're gonna get anywhere in the elections and anything going forward, we really need to be talking about the real issues, and Kemi, unfortunately, I don't think is gonna be doing that, so hopefully that kind of thing happens. There we go, that looks better, doesn't it? You can see me now. Okay, so moving on a second to our good friends over in the US of A, because we have a bit to talk about when it comes to them, don't we? Obviously, congratulations, President-elect Trump, on a historic victory over there. And to be honest, as if you asked me in 2020 who I'd wanted as president, I was all for Joe Biden, because I didn't think that Trump had done a very good job on, like, gun laws and things like that. But obviously, as we've seen over the past 4 years with Biden in charge, we really needed Trump back, and I am very glad that we have had that now, because he is indeed so welcome back to the White House, and will be later on this month. But obviously the main thing that people are talking about, at least I think they are, at least they should be, is how he is potentially going to help end the Ukraine war. As we know, from the first time he was in the White House, the one thing people always like to say is, oh, he's like best friends with like Putin and thingy from North Korea, and like that's a bad thing. We shouldn't be championing that. Like such good friends with these absolute psychos. Yeah, but we never had any proper conflicts during that time, did we? I wonder why. Yeah, that is a big thing, is that Putin knows now not to mess with America now, because he knows what Trump's capable of. He knows that Trump will stick to his word, and that's something we can say that we can't say for a lot of politicians, is that at least Trump actually stuck to his word when it came to his policies and what he said he was going to do. Like, he said he was going to do something when he was in office and he did it, right? And I think that we're going to see that exact same thing now over the next 4 years that he's back. Unfortunately though, I don't think the Ukraine is going to come out very lightly out of this conflict. Obviously they've already lost a lot. I think people have it in their heads that they're going to get all of their territory back, and just unfortunately I don't think that that's gonna be the case, which is unfortunate to say, but I think they're a little bit too far gone. And apparently, don't quote me on this, but apparently there are areas of the Ukraine that would much rather be part of Russia anyway. Again, don't quote me on that. I know the majority of it want Putin's cretins, well not Putin's cretins, to see the back of Putin's army and like want to see the end of the conflict and like just want to be Ukraine again. And I'm sure that Zelensky's going to make sure that that happens, but the territory that's already been taken, I don't know that they're all going to get it back. It's a sad prediction to make, but unfortunately that's what I'm hearing, and I just think that's going to be the case. I don't think Trump is a miracle worker in that regard. He's a miracle worker to some extent, but not completely, so we're just going to have to see what happens. But yeah, the end of the Ukraine war will definitely happen under Trump's this next term. Start using this like felt tip liner from Made by Mitchell, like it's a metallic red liner, which is very good. But I was expecting it to be like so boom metallic, which it's not in the way you'd expect. It's still nice, but it's, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that I'm using it, because I've not used like a felt tip liner in a long time, so I'm being kind of light-handed with it. I don't know. Sticking with US politics, my next prediction is another one that's quite sad. Joe Biden. I don't think he's gonna last the year. We have seen how frail that man has got. I genuinely think the stress of being president and the stress of everything and how frail and how fragile he is now, I think 2025 is the year where he finds his peace. I think he's gonna pass away in 2025, which is a very, as I say, it's a very sad thing to put, but I think at this point the man just needs his peace. The man needs that rest. He's been through a lot. He needs to meet God. I feel like that's what he needs to do. I'm saying this from like the absolute kindness of my heart, but yeah, I don't think he's gonna last the year. Don't know why I've chosen to make this next point while I do my mascara, but I just feel like it's a fun little thing to end this list on. And as I say, if you have any more predictions that you have in your head, feel free to leave them in the comments. It's what this is all about, free discussions and things like that. But yeah, does anybody remember Alex Belfield? Did anybody used to watch him in like 2021, 2022, obviously before he went to jail? Because he's getting released in June. For some reason, my algorithm has been showing me Katie Hopkins videos, which I didn't ask for. But she was obviously really good friends with him, like right before he got arrested and went to prison. She did a Blackpool show with him. I actually went to one of his Blackpool shows in 2021, one of his solo ones. It wasn't actually too bad, as I remember, but obviously he does have that presence. But yeah, so she obviously is good friends with him, and she's been obviously keeping in touch. She's been phoning him in prison, and cause people are obviously asking about him, because obviously their audiences overlap, and people have been asking about him, like how he is and whatever, and she said, oh yeah, well, you know, this was like last month. She was like, you know, on this date in December, I think it was like the 14th of December or something, like he only has like 6 months to go. But yeah, so in June he is gonna be released, which is crazy, the fact that it's been 2.5 years already, which is what he was sent down for. Well, it was like, I think it was 5 years, but like, I can't remember the exact wording, but like he was going to be let out at 2.5 years. If he's good, then he won't go back for the rest of it, you know what I mean? And out of curiosity the other night, actually, I was going back on his channel, because a lot of his videos when he went to jail were like privated or archived or something. So a lot of the stuff that's on his channel still is interviews with celebrities and things like that, and also kind of the trailers that he used to do like for his content. So I was looking back, and it was a bit of a nostalgia trip. I mean, there's a channel as well that popped up that's basically like clipped all of like the clips from his videos that could have been used as evidence against him, because obviously he went down for online stalking, and there's a channel that basically clips all of like that did clip at the time all of the bits in his videos where it was a bit creepy, or like, yeah, like this could be termed like, why is he harassing this person or whatever, which was also very interesting to watch. Because at the time I remember I was very much like, well, why is he being arrested? Like, he doesn't deserve this, he's just a funny dude. But then if you actually look back in hindsight and retrospect, like, yeah, you know, he was being a bit weird. I will not lie, he was being a bit harsh at times, I think, and he was being a bit bitter maybe. But we'll see, and I think, well, my prediction that I wrote down, and this was before I did all this investigation, was that when he gets out, he is going to come back to YouTube, but he's going to be really vague. Like, he's going to be under some kind of, like, gag order, so he's not going to be able to talk about everything he wants to talk about. And as much as he's going to be, like, happy to be back, and he'll be doing all of his, like, normal mannerisms and phrases, and we'll all be like, yay, Alex is back and everything, there's going to be kind of like he's going to be dancing around certain things, and there's people are going to be like, why aren't you talking about this? Like, what's happened in jail? Like, why are you different somehow? I feel like that's going to be, like, an energy that we're going to get from him, but as I say, he gets out in June, so we'll see what happens, we'll see what he says, and what his energy's like when he gets out. But yeah, it is going to be interesting because I was, as I say, quite a big fan of his at the time, and it was interesting to see him actually go to prison, because we were all convinced like it was all like a stitch up and like it wasn't going to be the case where he goes to prison, but obviously it was the shock of like, oh damn, he actually went. They actually locked him up for 2.5 years. So I'd say it's going to be interesting to see what he's like when he gets out. I think he will talk about everything eventually, but right now, like when he gets out, like as soon as he gets out, I don't think he's going to want to talk about everything immediately. Like whether it's just like his personal timing, or whether he's going to be under some sort of like gag order, free speech order, I don't know. Like, to try and avoid like going back to prison. They're gonna be like, you can't talk about XYZ, otherwise we're gonna bang you up again, and I don't think he's gonna want to do that, so we shall see. But yeah, I've done my eyes now, and I've kind of come to the end of my list, so I'm gonna do the rest of my makeup, and we'll come back to do my concluding thoughts. Okay, this is the finished look. Again, I apologise for the lighting. There we go. That looks better, doesn't it? I swear. I swear, 2025 I will be more prepared for these videos. You know, this, I know it's disgraceful, you don't have to tell me. Okay, concluding thoughts though, as I say, that was year in review 2024 and my predictions for this year when it comes to politics. I know this is a fairly short list, which is why I'm encouraging, if anyone else has any suggestions, do leave them in the comments below. Please start a discussion up. I would love to chat with you all about what we think is going to happen in this next year, because it's only going to get more chaotic, let's be so for real. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoy this channel. If you're new here and this is your first episode, feel free to go back and watch my previous episodes of the podcast. And 2025, I'm really going to try and be more consistent on here and just talk more about all the chaos that's going to happen. So feel free to stick around, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And yeah, I'm gonna go and do some more content creation, and I will see you guys in the next one. Try and stay sane as much as you can, okay? We're all hanging on by a thread. I will see you guys in the next episode.